Guys. At 1:01 p.m. Building and Planning Special Meeting with the Board of Directors, Tuesday, March 28th. First thing we need to do is approve the agenda presented. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to see on the agenda?
I didn't see any.
Get a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. Obviously Ross is not here. We'll move forward. Public comment.
Oh, I think you need to do the vote.
You do have, Scott, do we still need to do the vote when we're all in person?
Oh, but he's not.
Yes, you do. You have to, if for any action item, you have to take a vote, but you don't have to do it by roll call if everyone is there in person.
Okay,
Yes.
John. Thank you, Scott. Ms. Cap.
Yes.
Yes, Parks. Then I'm a yes. Okay. Public comment. Do we have anyone in the public who wishes to speak on any matters for the board? And seeing none. Move forward under approval of minutes. The February 21st meeting. We see any changes that needed to be presented on the minutes that was presented to us? Did you see anything?
I'm sorry.
No, I was just asking about the minutes. Did you see any changes that need to be made?
Oh, no.
Ms. Catherine?
I didn't.
Okay, motion to accept.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Catherine. Mr. Parks?
I
Approved.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
And here's Rob.
Mr. Elliott? Hello.
Here, Russ.
We're,
Oh, I thought she.
okay, let's move on to project update. Ross, we're on page 5. Thanks, just starting. Master plan, Bob?
Okay, so as I put in the report, plans have passed through the second plan check at HCI. We figured there's going to be 4 total. And to give you an idea, in the first time we submitted, there was 232 comments, and in the second go around, there's 93 comments, so they'll keep getting less. I scrolled through some of those. I mean, obviously I don't want to sit here and kind of go through like 232 comments, but just like from the fire marshal alone, there's like 40 comments. And most of them are very, very minor things, but they want a little correction here, or they want a clarification of exiting there while this excavation work's going on, and those sorts of things. So they just want every little tiny minutia documented on the drawings. So that's why it's not that there's a bad set of plans, that's how thorough they want them to be, that while you're in phase 3 and you're trenching in this area, can you show how the exiting of the building will be required to happen? So that means like, okay, you have to show, plates over the trench and, and guardrails or, or whatever has to be shown. Every little detail has to be shown on the plan. So we actually went down substantially from 232 to 93, and they're getting, and it's not like they didn't answer any questions. These are things that they have found in addition on the next time through the plans. And so they're in process of working on those responses now. And so that's going well, I believe. And then I also stated in here that the FEMA application was submitted by Cal OES to FEMA on March 6th and is in FEMA's review. So that's good news that we made it through the first hurdle. Now we're in the long waiting process of FEMA reviewing every application to hopefully fund 2/3 of this project. And then of course our compliance plan was approved by HCI. So basically, things are looking, good. Everything's moving along the schedule that the architect had said would happen regarding the review process, and they're pretty comfortable with the comments that are coming out. And anyway, it'll get down to just. The last time will probably just be a few clarifications. And then hopefully by August, we'll have approved drawings.
I think the one thing I've been pleased with is the fact that there's been no major redraws on anything that they found. I mean, it seems like they've been, the meetings that we had with them beforehand,
Mhm.
to kind of walk them through the project and stuff like that. And it seems to have worked. Eliminated a lot
Right,
of
and
stuff.
as you remember, because they kicked us out of the 2016 code and said we had to meet the 2019, but then they basically approved those, I forget what they were called, but where we requested alternate means of compliance to literally take everything that was required in the 19 code back to the 16 code, and they've approved them all. And none of those issues have come up in the comments.
Through 2 rounds.
So in essence, we still are under the 2016 code because it'll say 19 on the front of the plans, but a whole lot of requirements from 19 code is not there. And of course, now we're under the 2022 code. I just recertified as an OSHPD inspector of record and was tested on all the changes to the code book for 2022 code. That was a week ago in Sacramento.
Did you pass?
Yes.
Okay.
I got my new badge yesterday.
Is there any
Congratulations.
word on the possible grant, one we were working on?
Yes, I'm gonna report on that next.
Oh, is it? Okay, I
Yep.
didn't see it.
Yeah, it's under the SPC 4D. Anyway, so so everything's looking good on the master project. Everything's going the way it should. So I think we are still on plan for, being out to bid, this fall. And being able to proceed. And obviously, they made it very clear when I got the notice that the FEMA had accepted our thing, to make sure you do not break ground, because if you put one shovel into the ground, you're ineligible for the grant. So that's why we do have to wait till August, even if we were to get approved plans prior to. We want to wait and not move this trailer and start anything, because that immediately negates getting a FEMA grant. So
Now, is HCI, let's say that we have to wait a while because of the FEMA situation, and that stretches this project out. Is that something that HCI will work with us on, knowing that we're waiting for that?
plans are approved for 1 year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, so from the date of approval of the plans, you have to give a notice of start of construction within 364 days.
So after we get through the 4 phases of plan reviews, then they say you're approved. You got a year from that.
A year from that
Got
time.
it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. We should have know something.
And I'll speak to that similar issue on a later project here.
Got it.
So anyway, so that's the status on that. Any questions on that project? Okay, so actually, interestingly enough, the 4D testing is needed for that project. The reason we are a little behind the 8 ball on the 4D testing is we had submitted it to HCI and they lost it for quite a few months. And they contacted the architect and says, where are you at on your 4D testing plans, instructional engineer? And they said, they've been sitting on your desk for months. So they immediately rushed them through. And so we are actually on the 4D testing, we started yesterday. So the contractors are here. In fact, if you look right out there, you'll see blue tape on the walls. We're going to be sawing holes through that wall, taking out what are called prisms of the concrete masonry units. 2 of them are open cells that are not reinforced and full of concrete, and 1 of them is full of concrete and rebar. And you take those out, they go to a testing lab, they are crushed in a press and determine how much pressure it takes for the block to crumble. And that is utilized by the structural engineer in designing the structural integrity of the building. And then they have to patch that back and make it like new. So they actually have to chip back where they cut the rebar. They have to put a new rebar in there with special couplers. And then they have to grout that and repair the concrete masonry in it. So that's going to take all week, probably a little bit into next week.
That makes it cheaper though, right?
It gives HCI a sense of that the building is going to meet what the structural engineer says it's going to meet. Yeah. And this is a requirement of 4D. Whenever you take an existing building and up its seismic ability, they require this actual, what they call destructive testing. So that is in process. That along that line, HCI has a grant. This is a grant I think you're referring to. And they contacted me yesterday and says, we noticed you put in your notice of start. So here's a form. They sent it to me today. There's a form that they want us to fill out, which lists the costs of just the 4D testing, which I have right here. So we have already started filling this form out. We submit this, and then they've not done any of these before. We're like the first one, and we're only one of a handful of hospitals in the state that are actually doing this 4D testing right now, and we're eligible for these monies, which they have received. That's what he notified me on the phone yesterday. So the cost of this 4D testing, the structural engineer's plans was $60,000. There was no architect because it's 100% structural drawings. The contractor doing the work is $120,876.25. I've estimated the inspector of records fees at $5,600. And then we don't have to put a separate line item for testing laboratory because Twining, who is doing the work along with the general contractor, is a testing laboratory. They're one of the best testing labs in the state. And their lab is out of Long Beach. And they also have a special lab set up out at China Lake in Ridgecrest just to do all of that work of rebuilding China Lake. They are the testing laboratory for that huge government project of rebuilding all of China Lake. So they are the ones doing our work. So our total cost that we're going to submit for the grant, I don't think, in discussing it with them, I don't think we'll get the whole amount because he kind of swallowed hard when I told him how much we were spending to do this. And I don't think they had any idea, but I'm working with a Carl Sherman at HCI, who is in the seismic division. And our total cost is $186,476.25. So that's what we're going to be submitting to them to hopefully get a grant to cover most of it. So that's in process.
And is that tied, I'm sorry, is that tied to the other grant, the big grant?
No,
Or is it totally separate?
Completely and separate. That's a FEMA grant. This is an HCI OSHPD grant.
Okay.
Yes. And he pretty much assured me that we will get some of the money. He just wasn't sure that we would get the whole amount.
Yeah.
But hey, if they can pay for 50% of it, that's
Sure.
that's $90,000.
Right, absolutely.
That's
Helps.
not chump change. So anyway, so that's where that's at. That's the status of the SB4D material testing. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, new administration building. Okay, so as I stated here that we had a meeting with Joshua Champlin and he basically said, no, we're going to require you to meet the floodplain requirements. So anyway, but they also gave us a company that makes these little barriers to put at the doors, and they're going to accept the stucco. And so the cost of upgrading the whole building isn't going to be a whole lot. But what happened was, and this number I actually put in here is, I must have hit a button wrong on my thing. Because Tim and I were reviewing this yesterday, because it's actually about 2.1 million is the estimate done by SC Anderson to do the work in that building. Now, they may be high, but what they did is they reviewed the plans and they estimated it was between $176 a square foot or something, and $275 a square foot. Anyway, so what I did is I Googled, I was just curious. I says, what does remodels of commercial space cost? And it gives you a big old table, and it can vary from $40 a square foot to $400 a square foot, depending on the scope of work. So them choosing about $270 a square foot is probably not unreasonable, because we've got a substantial amount of work in several of these suites related to all new walls and of course new flooring throughout the building and all of that. And that's of course looking at it from a prevailing wage standpoint. So that was like, holy smoke, that's a lot of money. We hadn't planned on spending that much money. So the plans are basically ready to resubmit to the county, but we have asked the architect to hold off on resubmitting for us to have a discussion. And do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, to me, that's an excessive amount of money to build that space out. I think, when Bob and I talked yesterday, we took a look at the plans again to see, is there some way maybe that we could redo some of the areas? Like I said, one of the suites here, this first suite, which was suite A or suite 1, is pretty much ready to go. They were all offices before. That was the area that we had identified for putting finance in. And so our thought was, with some carpeting and some paint and so forth, we can get that area up and occupied, and so forth. The area immediately adjacent to it, which was their the church area,
The sanctuary,
the
yeah.
sanctuary, it's like one big open room. And so the thought there was we could move business office down in support of with finance and so forth. It's all in a big open room now up at the house up there with just cubicles. And so there's no reason they could not exist in that space as well, be adjacent to it. We might have to put one wall in to separate that from the next function that we had planned. But I think, there's an opportunity for us to go in and do some of these sections ourselves at very low cost. Because again, we can't spend any more than $28,000 before it has to become triggers the public bidding and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of what we wanted to do and come back and we look at it. We know the one space that's going to be actually the most expensive space to build out is going to be HR. By moving that in, and there's really no pressure at this point in time to move them out of the suite over the building where they're at. It would be a whole lot more cost effective right now to do that. So if we can kind of go and do this a piece at a time as we needed it, we can probably get a lot of this done a whole lot less expensively, and then come back if we need to later. We could go out for a bid on that one piece. And so,
Yeah, because see, I have one project guy and myself, plus, a little help from my maintenance guys. So suites that don't require a lot of work, we can do. But for us to go in and build that whole HR, is above what I can expect one guy basically to do.
Yeah.
So the thought would be is that, okay, let's look at who we need to move and when. So taking the 9 phases of the master project, phase 1 is simply moving this trailer and building this front drop-off canopy and the canopy in the rear. That's phase 1. So that would be towards the latter part of this year. That doesn't require us moving anybody. So we don't need to move anybody before the end of the year. Phase 2, though, goes into the lobby and the administration wing. There we have to move administration, pharmacy, medical records, Dina Griffith, what's her title? Risk management, the risk manager, the IT staff, but not the IT equipment room, and portions of radiology we're going to have to kind of find a home for their office, because that gets renovated, ultrasound, and the bathrooms get renovated. I believe we can keep the actual X-ray room in operation during that renovation, but those are the areas that have to be moved. So as we have discussed before, it made the most sense to move administration to the house, accounting house, because it's close to the hospital, closer than the building down there. And so obviously moving accounting and billing is the higher priority, and that's suite A and suite B in the building.
What about education? Our education folks?
Yes, you're actually right.
Yeah,
And they're in phase 1, but that it's 2 people. But here's the thought: suite, if we're not going to do HR for now, that whole end suite, which is suite E, was a big meeting room. And so we could just move education in there, set them up a couple desks in the back, and we can set them up some tables for a training room, and they'd be good.
Okay.
As a temporary, not a permanent home.
Right.
But we could do that. So yes, I'm sorry, I missed that here in phase 1. We do have to move these 2 ladies. And
Will we be able to use that conference room as it exists
yes.
today? Okay.
Mhm. Well, no, it needs carpet and
Okay.
paint.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it cement or bad carpet?
Right now we pulled up the carpet.
Okay, cement. A
Yes.
lot of times
cement.
cement's acceptable. I mean,
Yeah, we'd have to look at it because it's got adhesive on it and various things, but yeah. But, carpets probably, if we paid, let's just say Isabella Flooring to come in there and carpet that, is probably going to be about $6,000. So that's that and a little paint on the walls and it would be usable. We've already set up the satellite dishes and stuff for data feeds to there. We just have to hang the head end equipment and string some cables. Is that right, Carrie?
Not necessarily.
Well, but I mean, we've
What
got
else
we've
do
got
you
the poles on the roof for the dishes
We need,
and
the feed going down there it exists, but all
Yes.
of the endpoints, like wherever everybody can sit, PC.
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah, we have to cable.
But all the equipment needs to be installed as well and purchased.
Yes. Yeah, so that there is some cost there related to getting our computer systems and phone systems functional. So
Pretty minimal.
yeah, but yeah, not big.
Yeah, the equipment from those that they're using now will go with them down there.
The PCs will not. the-
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
not the
about,
network.
PCs.
Network
No, I'm talking about
is what I'm
PCs.
talking about.
Yeah, but and that's going to be in a cabinet in that back room that's going to be up on the wall. It's probably like EA, and it's got a hub and a few, all that technical stuff that I have no clue how it works. Anyway, okay, so yes, so we can temporary education down there. Then by phase 2, which will be early sometime next year, hopefully, we will have to have moved administration up there. We will have to, and this is something we haven't really, we got some costing on it, but pharmacies are a bit of a challenge because we're gutting the area that they're in. They cannot function walking through a construction area with no ceilings, and we're demoing everything in the hallway ceiling and that sort of thing. So we actually do have to relocate pharmacy. There's some options. Rural small hospitals like us are not required to have a pharmacy. So if we outsource like we did for a while there, we outsourced the compounding to Memorial. We can function with drug rooms. Don't know if that's the best choice, but that is a choice.
That one's gonna take some work.
And the other option is can we shift a couple people down to retail and operate out of retail pharmacy to keep us functioning? Plan C, which is the most expensive and one of the nicer ones, is to bring into our ER parking lot a mobile pharmacy trailer that has a hood and compounding and everything built into it. And we actually got some costs on that, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but they're not inexpensive.
What roughly?
You remember, Tim?
I don't even remember. Yeah.
I know.
We did
It was like a year ago. We
Yeah.
did some costing on that.
I mean, I have the sites and stuff like.
It's a cost per month.
Obviously, we need to see what it's going to financially do to us either direction with whatever decision we make.
Yes, absolutely. There's some work to do there. But in order to start phase 2.
Can we see if it's available when we might need it?
Oh, we contacted them. They said, not a problem. We have a trailer for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a company that does this
That's what they do,
all
yeah.
over. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if it's still there, but Adventist Health in Bakersfield has one sitting next to one of their medical office buildings. I have a feeling related to their having to upgrade their pharmacy for the cancer center to the latest USP 800 for cancer treatment. And the pharmacy that was in there did not meet the criteria. So they brought in a portable pharmacy. I don't know anybody down there to ask anymore, but that appears to be what they've done. And it's a single wide trailer.
Could they
About
have
50 feet
purchased
long.
it? Could they have?
Well, they could have, but there wouldn't be any reason to do that long term, sitting in a parking lot. It's just what it was the pharmacy in the cancer center did not have the air changes required under the newest USP 800. And there's no grandfathering on that. When it's USP, you will meet the current code, and they keep changing the criteria. So it was built appropriately at one time, no longer meets code. And they have the same issue with the pharmacy in the hospital down there, the acute care pharmacy. Same issue. When I built it, when I oversaw the building of it many years ago, it was built to USP 797. But then that criteria has now changed.
What about Dr. Leo's office? What can we utilize that for? We keep saying we're gonna do, everything's temporary, which is kind of annoying sometimes,
That actually might not be a bad
but
idea.
it's sitting there.
Yes,
Right.
I
yeah,
don't
no,
know
I,
why we wouldn't,
On a temporary basis.
well, and if we outsource the compounding, yes, I believe we could. We could house pharmacy over there in the other half that we haven't been using. Because even if we're talking about getting the mammal program going, that's gonna be in the back section, so there would be enough room. That's a very good
well,
idea.
even,
It's a very good idea,
I mean, it's a large building. I mean, you could move
and it's close.
HR and pharmacy. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
spending money down there every month
Yeah,
when we have spaces. And I don't,
yeah.
But if-
That's a very good idea. We'll look into that, because if we outsource the compounding, I think we could probably do that.
Yeah. I would love to work, we got to sit down and talk to the Board of
Well,
Pharmacy and
yes,
find out
right.
what they will allow us to do.
Yes.
And then, obviously, what I want to have them do is, from their consulting perspective, tell us how we might beat that.
without causing any
Yeah.
infractions somewhere.
Yeah, and that'll need to be done, in the next 9 months. So I
We
mean,
outsource the compounding.
yes,
In emergency, we can go ahead and do it ourselves, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because both roads could be closed again.
Being one of the persons who ran the drugs down and brought the compounds back,
Yeah.
not every time, but most of the time, that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the issues that, and then closes, then you get the 7-hour round trip going the long way.
Yeah.
If it's. not-
We kept that
If
contract
even
in place
open.
with them, knowing that we might.
Yes.
Again, so.
So this is what we're here to do, is brainstorm some of these solutions. So I think that's probably a very good solution for pharmacy, but obviously we'll have to get Board of Pharmacy's approval. And admitting, we're, obviously they're gonna be built into in the new phase 2, they take up most of administration space and part of the lobby. So they are currently located in the back, and I think we can continue to function out of the 2 windows, the ER window and the outpatient window, and the office they currently have, while we're doing this phase 2 renovation. So those are as in essence, over the first few months, the departments that we would need to get relocated.
Do you need a motion to start in progress what you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
No, we just, like I said, we want to present our thoughts to you, just to kind of let you know, again, while we did a great set of plans and stuff like this, it kind of gives us a diagram of where we want to head towards. But I think in light of the cost of what we're talking about to build that out right now, I think we need to get creative in terms of what can we put in there now, minimize the scope of what needs to be done later on, and hopefully get the cost down to a point where we could afford to do it when we get to that.
The key,
Go ahead, Kevin.
One of my questions is in the big building where you're talking about if you had to put walls up or something. I'm wondering about the cost, but how much less expensive are the accordion walls?
They actually, I've installed quite a number of accordion walls. They're not inexpensive. It's cheaper for me to put up some studs and drywall.
Okay, but that was just why I was
No,
asking.
but if you need adjustable space, they're awesome.
And
Yes.
manpower. I mean, if
Yes.
someone comes in, I
Right.
mean, it's.
And understand like the whole space where that is going to be occupied. Okay, so you had this big space that was their meeting hall. Originally, it had a dividing wall, so there was suite A, B, and C. So if we just reinstall that center dividing wall, the only thing left to do for billing to move in, the business office, is one cross wall in the back. And we were going to do a little T of this height. So that the desks would just not be looking at each other. So it was like cubicles. So we were going to do 60-inch high, a little wall out and a cross wall so that 4 desks sit in that space, and then one over here and one over here. And there's your 6 people for billing. So the work to complete suite B is quite minimal. So that's why I'm saying is that we could build out suite A ourselves and suite B ourselves, and then come down to that one that used to be a doctor's suite, which is D. And basically there we have to do a little carpet and paint. and data cabling. And we can move several of these other departments into that area. So that alleviates everybody we have to move through phase 2, which is going to take, I forgot, I didn't have time to look up the timing of the phases, but that's going to get us through about a year and a half from now. So those are the things that need to shuffle and move in the next year and a half. Then as we get down into some of the later ones, we don't have as many, we don't have the need to off. So that's why we're saying, yeah, HR could come over here, but temporarily they can stay there. And so that's sweetie. And so education, obviously we can temporary them and then we can work on building them there. Education was going to be in that old doctor suite, which has very little remodeling to do. It's just a couple walls and a door and flooring and paint and data, and they could move into that space. So, but they could temporarily just be in an open space.
And how many cubicles do we have built around in different places? I know they're more like 5 foot, not 6 foot, but
Actually, of cubicle systems, furniture systems, we do not have any. What's up at the house are some
Partitions.
there are a few partitions, but they are simply a partition, like as long as this table is wide
right,
and this high, that has a little leg at the bottom.
right.
We have never purchased any of the systems. I mean, I've installed huge amounts of them over
Well,
30 years.
my
That
question
just helped.
is it anything that we, when they move, that would get us by as we go?
Oh, they're
through the
dead.
process?
Yes,
Okay, because I know there's quite a few of them, the way there's.
right. And
Got everything
and
separated.
we weren't gonna look at buying them all new desks and everything. We would just literally pick them up and move them, and their desk could go down there and it goes into their new spot and gets plugged in and they're good to go. So, yeah.
As long as they have the partitions.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was just gonna do some little frame drywall partitions that probably will cost, in the neighborhood of less than $500 in materials and, and a little bit of labor.
Because when you think of the construction that was going on at that building, was it anything load bearing or were these non-load bearing?
That building, the entire building is a free span.
Wow.
There is
That's why I
not
don't
one
understand
bearing
the
wall
cost.
in the entire building.
You don't need it. That's what was so.
It is literally, it is trusses from the front wall to the back wall. Nice. All the way down.
So everything you're
we
talking
can-
about is non-load.
Non-load bearing, simple partitions.
Then are you gonna have to use T-rail ceilings or what are you gonna do?
T-bar ceilings are already all in.
That's just.
You're just gonna take it under the.
I'm just gonna take them up to the T-bar and
That means
brace them.
understand some of that cost, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why we haven't already moved forward with the idea you're talking about that house. I know.
It
It
had to do with us looking at the whole project. And it was going to exceed $28,000, obviously.
Understand.
And Scott had said, well, then it has to go to bid.
Well, then let me ask you this. What's it going to cost to have someone install the doors? Do we know that?
Well,
Because
I
obviously
wasn't,
that needs to go to bid, so be it. But-
no, actually, I'm a master finish carpenter. I have hung hundreds of doors.
Okay, so
I was
project going to cost us to get done.
well, there's very few doors actually being installed interior wise,
I'm
other than
referring to the
HR.
exterior floodplain to meet.
Oh, well, but if we don't resubmit to the county, we're not going to have to floodplain the building.
And will
I don't know
that
what
change
you
how much
mean
of
by
the
that.
process for insurance?
I don't know what you mean, but you mean do the work without a permit?
Not for like HR, where we're cutting an exterior door and building in all of these partitions, redoing the HVAC system and all of that. In areas where it's open and the HVAC system's there, it's already ducted into the T-bar. I'm not touching HVAC. I'm not really touching electrical and other than a couple minor circuits. I'm running data cabling, carpet and paint.
So why don't we move forward, get the permit in our hand, so we have the authorization to do whatever work we need to do. And then you do what you can. And when we get to the point where we need to bid it out, we'll bid it out.
Kind of piecemeal it.
That is an option and
Let me say something real quick.
to answer that.
So it is illegal to piecemeal a project. in order to get around the bidding statute, which is why Tim and I had this conversation a few days ago. What we need is the board to approve the contract as the fund, or approve work as the funds become available and the work is doable. At any point in time, if the work costs more than $25,000, we'll have to publicly bid it. But it is illegal to segment a project to get around the public bidding requirements. So that's kind of why we have talked about structuring it the way that it is.
Well, I didn't think we were talking about trying to evade the bidding requirements. We're talking about reducing this $1.5 million cost down to a fraction of that. So if we move forward with the permit and start doing some of that work ourselves, we're not evading any bidding requirements. We're just starting this project.
We don't need
Arguably,
what we're doing, what he's saying. We don't need the permit.
Go ahead, Scott.
yeah. So if you pull a permit for $1 million project and then you piecemeal it, arguably that's segmenting a project.
And truthfully, correct me if I'm wrong, if you pull electrical anywhere, it requires a permit.
Under Oshkosh jurisdiction, if I move that outlet from there to there, it requires a permit.
Thank you.
Yes.
And obviously, if you build walls of any type, you're going to need electrical in those walls.
In a couple of locations, yes. For the first phase of A, there's electrical in all those rooms.
Perfect.
So I don't have to pull any electrical.
Perfect.
Suite B would require a couple of circuits. But the panel is existing and the panel has almost no load on it because there's a panel that serves both Suite B and there's another panel that serves Suite C.
What I'm referring to is I'm not interested in circumventing the system.
I'm understood. And I'm trying to be careful in what I say because you're right. Technically, you're supposed to pull a permit if you run a couple of electric circuits. If you change the hot water in your heater in your house, you have to pull a permit. So this becomes gray, and that's why we'd asked Scott to weigh in on this concept at all, because there are some of these suites where we're going to have to probably bid the work out, or maybe not publicly bid it, because to pull a couple of circuits into Suite B does require a set of plans to the county and a permit and a contractor to do the work.
That's under 25,000,
In theory, it might.
right, Scott?
But even architects are not.
Worst case scenario, like I said, we do what we can do, okay? And then if we get to a point where we need to submit a permit, we submit a permit for that project, not the whole building. You know what I'm saying? We break it down.
Scott, can we do that legally?
Because it's
So
basically.
it is
If we did that,
a tricky area of law, and you have to be very, very careful when you're doing this.
Scott, to me, if we were going to say build out Suite C, which has quite a few walls and electrical, et cetera, that would have to publicly bid.
Yeah, that one would.
But could we submit just a set of plans to the county for Suite C?
Yeah, so just because you're doing work, or just because you have a series of projects, does not mean you have to bid all of them as one project. However, if the work you are doing can be considered to be part of a whole, then you run into that issue. So if you have to pull a permit to do electrical, right, and you did the rest of the work because you were able to do it yourself, then I would say that is probably fine. And if it's under 25,000, then you don't have to bid it. You can sole source that work. If it's over 25, then you'll have to bid it. So that's just what you have to keep in mind. But you can't say we have this big project and now we're going to do it in bits and pieces and get permits when we need them and hire this contractor when we need them, because that's when you run into segmenting.
There's a gray area there.
We need to make a motion.
Very
to change
careful.
what we originally were doing to give Bob the authority to just get us in there. And we can pick up later whenever we need to. Can we make a motion to do that? Scott, I'm talking to you.
Scott, did you
Oh,
catch
you're
that?
talking to me.
Yes.
Can you make it- Yeah, so if it's under 25,000, my understanding is that Tim has the authority already to approve whatever that work is. Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah,
He does.
it's within my signature authority.
Yeah, so we would just come back to the board if it's going to be 25,000 or more. And we know at that point in time that we have to bid it. So
The permit that's existing, we just don't do anything with it, just let it sit.
Yeah, we don't have the permit at this.
Okay, we don't-
Okay, then we just ignore it right now.
But are you comfortable with that?
No, not at all.
Okay,
I
then
think
we're
we get the permit to do the work.
Then we're back to the $1 to $2 million.
No, let me finish. We get the permit to do the work. All that is authorization. There's not a cost associated with getting the permit. And then we phase out how we're going to implement the authorization under that permit. You are going to do this X amount. And we'll bid out whatever is remaining.
But isn't that segmenting?
Yeah.
It's not,
Scott?
the purpose isn't to evade the bidding process. It's to save us money in the construction.
Right.
Because we're going to do it ourselves.
I can't answer that question. That's a Scott question.
Scott,
look, if you go and you get a permit to do all this work to a facility, that's probably going to be considered to be one project, right? Because you're permitting the work that you want to do. You know you want to do this. You're seeking approval to do it. At that point in time, my interpretation would be that is one project.
What if we put a phasing plan as part of that permit?
So there are projects that are phased, but they still have to be bid. So I've worked on multiple projects that have had phases, but you bid it as one, and then there are certain triggers for when those phases occur. And part of that trigger might be that funding's available. So
Okay, Scott, let me ask you this. If we do a phasing plan of this project and we say for phase 1 and 2, we're going to do the construction in-house. There is no intent to bid this part out because it's just within our ability to do. And then for phases 3, 4, and 5, those will all.
I would say no. I would say any work that you do that is, say, preparatory or that you can handle in-house is not a part of the project. It's not a phase. Because once you phase it, you have one project.
So you're saying we can't do any work ourselves under the law to save money?
You cannot. Nope. Not if it's going to cost you $25,000 or more. That's the whole purpose of the statute. It would save, excuse me, it would save every agency money if they could phase it and do part on their own. But that's just an in-run on the bidding statute.
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's frustrating to me too. I agree with you, Ross, but unfortunately, we have to abide by the law, and the law,
Let me
if
ask
you
you
pull a
that.
permit, it's a one project.
Expanding on that just a little bit. If we pulled a permit per unit as we proceed, does that circumvent what we're doing until we get to a spot where we go, this one is going to exceed the threshold? In other words, if you had to pull a permit for section 1 for running electrical, which is a minor permit, we proceed as such.
Scott, if I'm understanding what you're saying, if we were to put carpet and paint in suites A and C, which have all their walls in place. And we could do that. And then if we submitted a set of plans to the county to build out B and C phase, and that's all we submitted to them was suites B and C, that would then be bid out publicly and would go that route. And then if we chose to down the road, when funding was available, chose to move HR in, we could submit the plans for suite E to the county and it would be publicly bid.
Yes, you can arguably do that. Each should be a distinct project. Each project should have separate board approval. Each project should be subject to having the funding available. And for each project, any part, if it's 25,000 or more, then it should be publicly bid.
But at least by doing that, we're not circumventing, stating we're evading.
Right.
Any
And a large portion of the work would be publicly bid. That means we're gonna pay a little more money because one, I don't have the manpower to build out those suites anyway. Because, I've worked in hospitals where I had a 30-man construction group, that I kept busy full time. I have one person.
It would be bid where it's not prevailing wage.
Correct.
It depends. If it's over 25,000, no, it'd be bid prevailing wage.
It's okay.
No, if it's over $1,000, it's prevailing wage. If it's over 25,000, it's bid.
Oh, okay. My misunderstanding. Okay, so the parts that would be bid out would be prevailing wage.
Okay, and if it's bid out, if it's done in-house,
The parts that we could,
there's no.
And
We've got
cost.
electricians, right? We can do the electrical.
Well, if we permit, again, it's back to running electrical requires a permit.
Once again, that's minor.
It's minor, yes, but now understand that the architect has spent more time on this than he ever budgeted. So if we asked him to break it into some phases, well, that's the wrong term. If we asked him to break it into a separate project because we can't afford to do the whole project. If we're going to just submit suite B, he would have to create a set of drawings that only shows suite B. It can't show A, D, E.
It'd still be better to do it that way.
But we would have to pay him. I just want you to understand that because he's already exhausted way more hours than he ever bid on the project because of us going back and forth on his floodplain.
Minor is what we're discussing off of the plans we have. Why would we be going back to the architecture to start with when we're talking about minor permits? We're not talking about a major construction permit.
I do not have a license to draw a set of plans and submit to the county for electrical.
Who's doing our plans?
radiant.
It is Radiant Design out of Bakersfield, and then there's a
How much
electrical
is the total
engineer and
price?
mechanical engineer, et cetera.
How much was the total we paid to start? 60,000 or something?
Something in that neighborhood. I don't
Okay.
remember. I'd have to
They've
go.
already got everything to make changes. If it was 5,000 or.
Yeah, it's not big dollars. I just want you to understand that they would have to create a set of drawings that only shows the outline of the building,
Right, right.
but the project is suite B.
But to switch it, just change a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a cut and paste.
couldn't be that
That's all
much.
they're doing. Right.
Yes. And it would require us showing the flood
The doors,
roofing of the
flood
doors.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I'm trying to get us somewhere where we can reasonably afford to do this project
Good.
legally.
So Scott, I just had a question. So I just spent the whole weekend up in Monterey at a special districts conference. And there was an attorney who did a 3-hour presentation on this subject about prevailing wage. She told the audience that she recommends that districts do things in-house to save money. And you're saying that we cannot do that. I'm just trying to get clarification because I know maybe she's not as familiar with the law as you are. I don't know, but.
So the law is very clear on this,
Okay.
right? There's no question. If the work is going to cost $25,000 or more, you have to publicly bid it. So to the extent that you have work that you can do that is less than $25,000 without also violating the law against segmenting public contracts, you should do so. All right. So if it's 25,000 or more, you're just supposed to publicly bid it. If it's 1,000 or more, you have to pay prevailing wage. So even if you have a $6,000 contract to do the electrical work that you can sole source, you don't have to bid, you still have to pay prevailing wage. But if you can do that in-house without violating any county ordinances or building codes, then I agree with that attorney. Yes, you should do so. To the extent that you can do the work, then you should do so. But a lot of these special districts don't have in-house maintenance departments because they're too small, right? And so, but she is right in that it is always cheaper to do it in-house as long as you are within the bidding thresholds.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Is there a limit to how many extension cords we can use? You know, those
It
sorts.
has to be calculated on wire size for distance.
Oh.
Do you know what you're supposed to do? Do you know what you're going to do from all of this conversation?
I believe so.
Can you put it, can you put it together
For all of us.
for the board?
Okay,
For us to
so
approve?
as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, is that if we want to say move accounting, because they're one of the first things we need to do to clear the house for administration's move. And administration is going to basically move into the house with no changes because it fits. So would be to take Suite A and get Isabella Flooring to lay some carpet after we paint the walls, so we don't get carpet on, paint on the carpet. We would have to pull in data cables back to where the hub's going to be for Terry to put the head end equipment in, which I believe is in the back of Suite D. Simple matter to pull data, drop it down the walls. There's no rated walls, so we drop down the walls. We just put a plaster ring there. The data cable comes out at the desk location. So we would pull data cable, we would paint the walls, and we would freshen up the light bulbs and the light fixtures because there's a lot of them are burnt out. T-bars already there, ceiling tiles already there, walls are all there. Drywall, they're all drywall. They were drywalled behind the paneling. So we removed the paneling. So it's simply a matter of painting the walls and putting in carpet for what I estimate will probably be between $4 and $6 grand. That would be the only thing outsourced to the carpet.
That'll be the first thing you need to do. Then when you need to move forward, you can do it again. You can bring it back to.
Right. So Scott, that carpet would have to be prevailing wage.
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime you do work $1,000 or more under contract, and the contract can be written, oral, or implied, it's prevailing wage.
Okay.
But you're saying
And there are specific rules for carpeting and painting. So let me look at those rules, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, because I once you said over 1,000, that triggers that technically that had to be prevailing wage.
yeah, but you're saying if you could do it for like 6,000 through Isabella Carving, it wouldn't be a bid.
Well, you know,
It goes to bid.
here's, I mean, there are some options here. We would have to look at, okay, could we just purchase, because we're going to carpet tile. Okay, we're going to use the carpet tiles. I've laid so much of that stuff. I could teach Troy to do it in a heartbeat. You simply spread the glue on the floor. You just drop the carpet tiles, you trim the ones at the wall. We could technically put it in ourselves.
I've got 1,800 square feet of it. I could almost just give you. Carpet, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that first suite's like 1,500 square
it's
feet
not glue down. It's the kind you would see in a convention center where
where they just lay them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not glue down. You just lay it in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good carpet.
Yeah.
So what kind of time frame would we be looking at?
It would probably take me a month and a half to say for one guy to knock out, say, Suite A.
1, 2.
Roughly, I'm just saying, he's got to paint all those, you know, there's a lot of walls in that office because all the offices are there. So it's a matter, but if we're not protecting everything, we don't worry about the floor. He just goes in there and he just rolls the walls and he could paint several rooms a day.
Do you need the architect to change anything just to do that?
No, in that Suite A, there is no changes wall wise.
Do we need to change the architect so that we don't say we're trying to segment it?
No, as long as we have him draw, when we do get ready for one of these suites, as long as he draws a set of plans and submits to the
For
county
the suite, we're
for
working.
that suite we're working on, and we have it publicly bid. We don't,
Can I make a motion? We do that? Can we do that now? to get this started?
that's a Scott question.
Scott,
If this is all within Tim's authority, just let Tim and Bob take care of it. If we
Okay,
have to come back to the board for approval for a project, we'll come back to the board
Do it,
for
and then the
approval.
board will approve it.
Okay, so, yeah, so if we've got to pull electrical, we'll look at a permit for that. If we need somebody to bid the whole suite, we'll proceed with bringing it to the board with an estimate from the architect to draw that, just cut and paste what he's already done onto a set of drawings that shows suite E or whatever. And we can proceed that way,
So we're looking middle of May.
hopefully.
This board meeting, you're gonna be able to get approval. Just come.
Yes, I mean,
I'm not good at painting. I
I'm just-
hire someone to paint my stuff. so-
understood. The only reason I'm saying that is we have other projects too that we're trying to work. We're trying to spruce up some patient rooms, so he's working in some of the patient rooms. But if we pull him off of that and put him down there, yes, we could easily do that.
I just want to see us using that building sooner than later.
I completely agree with you. Yes, this process has taken too long.
Correct.
And it would be nice to at least get somebody in the building.
Ross, what's your opinion on everything?
I guess it makes the most sense for Bob to come back with basically the phased plan here. These are the 5 separate projects that need to be approved.
That way we don't have it as 5 separate phases. We have it as separate.
It's not 5, we got separate projects.
projects.
Because we can't afford, like Scott says, due to budget, you can break it down into separate projects based upon available
Does
funds.
that cost us, it'll cost us a little bit more for your architect to be able to break that stuff down. And of course, we'll have to get separate permits, so there's time frame with each of those and. But if that's what we need to do.
But I think we have the time, as long as we don't dally too much.
Yeah.
Yes.
John. your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's the most logical approach. I'm good with that. Just coming back in a month or so.
Catherine? What's your opinion?
Yes, I think that's personally, I would like to see somebody in there. And if that's what it can take to get the project done, we have so many projects that are broken up into, projects, not phases. So how we do it at my house,
Yep.
So I think it's what we should, I think we should go for that. We'll start on, the project A. And figure out if we can get pharmacy or someone in the other building too.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then what we can do is, we don't have to just say this suite is only for this department. For instance, because really accounting and billing need to move together or within close proximity.
That's the next project.
But project 2 would be to take the other suite that has all of its offices
Right.
and paint it, carpet it, and pull some data, and we could move billing in there. That's not their permanent home. Their permanent home is going to be in B, but we need to permit that one. Makes sense?
Gene?
Yes, I'm 100% whatever they bring to the board, they need to bring it. I'll do for it.
I just honestly believe we need to break that into the 5 sections,
Okay.
especially when we're dealing with non-lead bearing walls.
Yep.
And with most of what's going in is minor work.
Yes,
As
and
long
in
as
the two
it stays
states.
within the legalities of what we need to do as a team.
Right.
Then we do.
Yeah, because I will only do what is legal.
As
First.
that's all we're going to approve. Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
As Scott said many months ago, that if we did something illegal, I go to jail, and it's like, I'm not going to jail.
Do I get a motion to
Well,
move
since
forward
we're-
with as discussed on this particular project?
Do we need a motion? Scott? I don't think we need. a
Scott says
motion.
we need to do it amongst us.
So in this case, Tim and Bob are just proceeding under Tim's authority as CEO
Okay.
for the usual maintenance of district facilities. And I don't believe the board has to approve that. It's
No.
just an
Okay.
operational decision that Tim and Bob make.
Right, and
All
then
right,
when we
but-
need to do that phase, that next piece or whatever, that will be, that has to
Come
come
back
back
to
out
us.
and back to the board.
Yeah,
Right.
so probably at next meeting, we will discuss which suite we need to have the architect work on as a project.
Yeah,
Okay.
get them
And
started.
then we'll have a quote from him to do so.
All right.
And we can bring it to the board for approval to
Yeah.
proceed with.
If we could to speed up, could we give a dollar amount approval, like up to 5,000 or something?
We don't have.
We don't
to.
know.
We
Doesn't
have
have to.
the 25,000.
He has
Okay.
that authority already. All right. Yeah,
Generator.
and I will not exceed any of the dollar amounts. Well, Scott, you're gonna get back to me on the carpet, but other than that, yes, we will proceed with that understanding.
Yeah, carpet and painting do require prevailing wage. I looked.
Okay, so if I contract that out, we have to pay prevailing wage. If I paint it myself, it's the cost of the paint.
Yeah,
Right,
rolling the carpet out prevailing wage is not gonna be a lot.
Well, no, and that's why I'm saying is I'll have to talk with, say, Isabella Flooring and see if they're even set up to do prevailing wage. I know that the companies in Bakersfield are because they do the high schools and all of those entities, which are all prevailing wage jobs. I'll have to talk with them and see if they can do that.
all right.
All right, emergency generator.
Okay, all right, so emergency generator, the bids, and it appears that I have at least 3 bids coming in. Because, last time we had the one.
Yep.
So I believe JTS is bidding again, at least from my conversations with them, because they've already bid it once. So it's simply a matter of revisiting their material costs and presenting their bid. It appears that AC Electric out of Bakersfield is going to bid. They've been emailing me back and forth with lots of questions. And there's a company out of Fresno called GL Bruno, which is a big general contractor, and they have said that they are bidding. So that's where those are at. Those are due here on March 30, which is Thursday. So once we receive those, we'll probably call a special meeting because I don't think we want to wait an entire month to proceed. I will tell you this, that we are very close to our 1 year on the plans, believe it or not. Approval by HCI. So we sent in a letter. I had the architect send a letter requesting an extension. So we were granted, I think I'm trying to remember now, it was a 6-month extension on it. That way, I would hate to, by the time we got it in place and did notice of start, and we're 3 days past the 1 year and they canceled our plans.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So I just didn't want to go there. So we went ahead and requested the extension and they granted it. It's a one-time only extension.
Good.
So emergency generator, we should know a whole lot more in a couple of days on what we're looking at cost-wise there.
Okay.
All right. And then dietary water heater number 2 is done. It is in operation. It is performing flawlessly. And the architect has started to close out documents. Thanks. So then there are 2 other projects, the boiler number 2 replacement. You folks approved, the board approved the capital expenditure request for everything except the unknown, because we haven't bid it yet, as far as the actual construction installation costs. So the capital request that was approved covered the equipment at $87,968.60. The architect to draw the plans at $67,000, and and then I have estimated 80,000 in construction, but that will be on a separate CER, and we'll come to once we have plans, which we should have plans in about 3 weeks, according to the architect. They'll get submitted to HCI and go through the approval process, probably a couple of back checks, and then we will have approved plans to replace our old dead heating boiler from 1990, and we will then put it out to bid. So that'll be a prevailing wage bid. I'm trying to get some numbers out of Train, because we have a Train building management system that needs to control those boilers. So they're working on a cost for me of what they believe their costs will be to to add those into, it shouldn't be a huge amount of money, but they don't work for free. And then there'll be, the general contractor will take care of the plumbing and anchoring of the equipment, and running the electric.
Irina Diaz to the ER.
So
Arena
that
Diaz
project
to the ER.
is in process, so it's just a matter of keeping you informed of the plan review process, and then we'll bring the cost once we put it out to bid, and we'll come to the board. Because the equipment purchase, I have requested the only supplier in Kern County that I can purchase the same boilers that we installed is Ferguson. And I have asked them to refresh their quote to current and give me a lead time on how long it will take to get it. So that's where that's at. And then patient monitoring equipment replacement, that's our patient. Bakuda Denji is a product we currently have. And I believe we're going back with the same.
Yeah.
This is a Mark Gordon project. My only piece of it is that we plans drawn to permit the installation. And so you had approved the proceeding with the drawing of the plans with our architects for $14,990. So that is just starting. We awarded that contract to them last week. So
you can't just unplug one and plug a new one back in, huh?
Different cabling they're using.
Really?
It requires a couple of issues. You're absolutely right. There's a monitor arm there, and you can unbolt that monitor, you can set a new one on. But it requires different cabling, and anytime there is cabling of a project, even like for camera systems or whatever, HCI requires a permit because they want to make sure that where it passes through firewalls is done properly. And also that the monitors aren't going to fall off the wall. Understand that in my research of permits through the history long before my time, I have never found a permit for an installation of fetal monitoring, or not fetal, patient monitoring system. So I doubt that what we have was put in under the permit. That's that. And any questions?
So that permit, that's even network cables, because that's all that this is.
Absolutely.
So even though we already went through the process of putting that proper firewall channel through, but we're going to run those same cables exactly through that same thing.
The nice thing is we don't have to put in any new pathways, but it's HCI.
It's all the mounting hardware in the ER as well.
Yeah, it's new
They're
mounting.
changing all of the mounting hardware in the ER.
Yes. And that requires a structural engineer to design the mounting we have different types of walls. We have framed walls and we have CMU walls. And so they have to specify the type of anchor that mounts the rail to the wall.
That part makes sense. And just the cable, it's just.
I know it's frustrating, but we had to do that with the camera system. You know, because, well, granted, it was improperly installed, so it's now all properly installed, and those pathways exist throughout the entire facility, and we're going to reuse the same pathways. What these are is they pass through the firewall, and there's a box passes through that has an intumescent curved pad in it, and as you slip the cables through it, pushes that pad up. But if you have a fire, the heat causes that intumescent pad to melt down around the cables so that no smoke or fire can pass through. So, and those, they're very pricey, but we now have them throughout the entire facility going through all of our firewalls.
Well, good deal.
Okay.
Any questions for Bob?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Moving on
Thank
to
you.
section F, the invoice review approval. Looks like Red Ink Architects invoices 5875 and 5956.
Yes, and what that is though, that is for the boiler. That's a boiler project that they're already working on the plans.
Yep.
So they have invoiced.
That's what
me.
we've already approved.
Approved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are invoices against that pre-approved project with Red Architects. And we asked our architect if he wanted to bid the project, but he says, you know, Red Ink Architects was the architect that did the existing boilers for Train for us. So we're not having, he'd have to reinvent the wheel. He can't take their drawings and cut and paste them onto sheets. He could go to jail. So he says it would cost you way more for Michael Ryan to draw this set of plans. So he suggested we just use Red Architects. So because Red Ink Architects is also one of our architects of record because they did the existing boilers and chillers. So it's not like we're bringing in a new architect. This is an architect that has currently done work for us. And we're just going with them because they're more cost effective because they've already done the project once.
Okay.
And then
Do we need a motion to approve those?
yes, that's all we had, right? Was just the, it was just
We
the
need
two, right?
to approve the invoices as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jake. Have a second? Second. Thank you, Ross. Okay, John, your votes?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Mr. Elliott? Yes. And Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay. God forgive you either.
I'm here.
How do we proceed with discussing item G? I don't know how to approach this one.
It's entirely up to you guys.
All right. Before we even discuss it, I just want to make one statement. Every one of us cares a hell of a lot about this hospital, or we wouldn't be doing what we do. We all approach things in a different manner. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. But what we need to discuss is what was brought up at the last meeting where Ross and the whole team felt that we could have had issues with Mr. Parks. And what I want to do is, I don't know how to discuss this. I don't even know how to bring it to us, but I would like each one of us to openly discuss it. I know Ross already made a lengthy statement at the last meeting, but where would you like us to proceed? How would you like us to proceed?
Sure, thank you. So I guess where I am on this is, unless we act as a board to take this action to censure Director Parks, then he can continue to make any accusations and accuse anybody of anything without any repercussions to himself. He damages the reputation of the person who's the subject of his accusation, but nothing ever occurs to you when you make that accusation. Only the person who's being accused is the one who's harmed. I think this censure resolution is some way to hold you accountable for your actions. That's why I think it's extremely important for all of us to approve the resolution.
Mr. Blythe?
You know, I've been coming to hospital meetings for probably 15 years. Didn't get elected many times, but and I've been through observing a lot of boards. I know we had a board member who was a former CEO, and he was controversial a couple of times, but honestly, even some of his actions are not what I've observed since I've been on this board. I've sat through, and I'm not trying to make this personal, I'm really not, but I'm just, in my observations, sitting in a couple of board meetings and seeing a director berate fellow board members, the CEO, berate a controller who she was pulling her hair out because our CFO at the time was in Apple Valley, basically incapacitated because we didn't have access to the product line report. And then at a previous meeting, you know, our IT director gets berated because of the website. And it's just very unbecoming as an elected public official. We work for the community. Belligerent behaviors just should not be tolerated. And I know we've gone through meetings for years seeing this. I know legal counsel has added input. Sometimes you don't agree with legal counsel, but that's the law. And so That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Ms. Kepler?
I knew I should have stayed at work. You know, I have many thoughts. I too have, like we talked about earlier, a heart for this hospital. I've tried to shake it, it doesn't work. But Ross, and I did thank you for the statement that you made, but one of the points that keeps sticking out to me is through your statement, you continually said that due to Gene's ignorance, and I believe that's true. I think you probably have way more knowledge about the Brown Act than he does. I don't feel, so I'm taking the steps just separately than, you know, as far as talking about that first. I agree. Sometimes we speak out of turn because we don't know the depth of the regulations in the Brown Act, which you do. And so I agree with that. I think because if we don't have the knowledge, we do speak out of turn. I do know that I've seen Gene ask questions at the same time. Is it a Brown Act? Is it, you know, questioning? I don't know that he's questioning us as much as he questions himself. I don't know, you know, I can only go by the statement. So as far as an accusation, I don't even remember the conversation, which is not good, but I don't even know how. For me, sometimes you guys have information. I have no idea how everybody got. I'm like, you know, rule is Brown Act rule. We talk to one person or we don't talk to anybody. But yet I can come to this meeting and everybody have information on stuff and I'll be like, okay, how's that happen? So, and that's just my point. I mean, I'm surprised at the things other board members know at the same time, and I don't know. And I'm grateful for that because if there's a violation happening, it's not on me. You know, if it's not. Belligerent? Yeah, definitely. But it depends on how far you want to call belligerent. Yelling at somebody to shut up, slamming your fist on the table and saying, shut up and let me talk. I mean, I don't know. I go from these meetings feeling like I just left my kids. And I've tried to include myself and say we whenever I address the board, because we are a team and we have failed at it. We have failed at it. People get passionate, people, this is Gene's personality. It's not going to get any different. Yes, we're going to ask him to do things and stuff, and hopefully he does it because it's not something any of us appreciate. And we didn't put ourselves here. The community put us here. And I think each one of us take turns that we do not even hold ourselves accountable. And it's disheartening. So, the censure, I can agree with that. The part about asking him to be removed from the board, I wouldn't agree with that because we're not the only ones that put him here or whether we voted for him or not. But, Gene, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think? What do you feel? Because this is, it's about you. And I know you apologize when you know you're out of line. And I know you ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions, but everybody asks things in their own tone.
I would like to thank Ross for doing this because I wear it like a badge of honor. I am so proud of that. You know how much time it took him to write that? That is so awesome, Ross. Thank you so much. In Vietnam, I got 2 Bronze Stars with a V device for valor. Whenever I do something, I do it wrong. What I did and what I have done is for the benefit of this hospital. And you guys have kept me corrected. And I might get aggressive or more active because I feel, but I've never, it's not personal about me or anything about me. It's everything that you've heard me is about the hospital. And our inability to operate it the way I feel it should, we should be able to operate it at a profit. Now, and me pushing Tim to want to do that, like I've told him, I like him. I don't have a problem with him at all. I don't like the way he runs skilled nursing and doesn't operate it at a profit. Seems there could be more effort put there. That's the only problem I've had is whenever about how the hospital is being run. And so,
So Jean, do you think that those are things you could get across and be more?
I probably should calm down a little more, like whenever I hollered at John, bless his heart. I've supported him ever since he started running for the board. But, and, you know, I was wrong and I apologize. But there have been times whenever I was more aggressive than I should have been. That's true.
So is that something you're agreeable to? Like, yeah, I can.
Well, I'll be better. There's no question. But
So another thing I would like to address, I'm sorry, right?
No, please.
But we take things personally. There is no way we cannot walk out of here and not take things personally. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here in the first place. You know, but Jesus looked on people with compassion. And we're called to do the same thing. You know, we're called to do the same thing. When Gene made his statement, Ross, and I could be wrong because it wasn't towards me. I can be just as mad and everything at saying. I don't know that he meant it. That you were in violation of the Brown Act. I mean, it's just when I rewatched it a couple of times, believe me, over this last month, because it has made me heartsick. And I've watched it over and over. And I don't know that he meant it personal. He was just, to me, that's Gene. Not that that's not a compliment, but that's the way it is. But then you turned it personal publicly. And tried to do the same, you tried to hurt with malice the same way you were hurt. And that surprised me. It surprised me because that's not who I see you as. I don't see you as that type of person. But to me, I don't know what, I haven't talked to anybody else about this. But to me, I was more surprised at your behavior than his, because I'm just used to that being Gene. That's not a compliment. It's not, I'm not trying to make excuses, but when you said, you know, I've been with you for this amount of time and I'm taking my business from, I mean, you made it personal. And I was like, that's not what we're here for. So, and I truly, and here I'm doing the same thing. When I leave here, I feel like, man, I was just on a mom mode talking to these guys in here because I just feel that we could work so much better together. And Jean, even their comment about.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So part of my emotion, which I brought to the last meeting, was that this is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is not the first time I've been accused of breaking the law. A false accusation by him of breaking the law. What sent me over the edge was when he was in a conversation that we had during a board meeting. This was an email that Gene sent to all the board members saying he wanted Ross's violation of the Brown Act on the agenda. So first, I didn't break the Brown Act. He could have called Tim or Scott to get that resolved, but instead, no, he wants it on the public agenda. There's no spirit of cooperation. It's not I was reacting to that.
No, and I agree, and I know that.
And I get the sense that he is more interested in just stirring the pot and creating trouble than working as a team. And I just had it. And that was my reaction.
No, and I know that. I mean, I thanked you for it, and I knew it hurt when you did it. I knew it. You could see it and hear it in your voice. And that's probably what even made it why I went back and watched it a couple times. I was just like, where did it go? How did we get so far off of what we should be doing? And I understand, yes.
It's not the first time. This has been a series of things over the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, and I haven't been here for all of them, so
Two of us have been here the same amount of.
yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out how can we make it better? And Jean, bottom line, that is a commitment from you. That is a commitment from you because you have wisdom, you have knowledge, you have things that none of us may have in certain areas. And so everybody has good input. But I'm just telling you, don't ever treat me like that because, it wouldn't be good. I think my husband could take you. But I'm just saying, I really think, Matthew 18:16, you go and you take it to the person first. And then if that doesn't work out, you take it, someone else with you to work it out. It's not here. It's not here to work it out. It's as a team. And, if you guys couldn't have talked together, then you bring Fred. Or you bring, you know what I mean? And you get it worked out before we get here. I totally understand your feelings because I've left here, not as a board member, but as an employee, just like that, where I felt like I was broken because of how I was treated. But again, I totally agree with this. And Jean, have you read this?
I glanced at it. I didn't really read it.
Well, let me tell you what it says. G perks will straighten up.
I
You need to be kinder.
I probably have done everything in here, but it was in an effort
but
to
the
make
thing-
it better. It's never been about me. I'm great. I've been a board member for 18 or 20 something years. It's
Gene,
not
the
never
thing
about
is-
me. It's
But
always
don't
about
take-
that.
It is about the hospital, but don't take people down.
No, yeah.
You
The only-
wouldn't like it if
The
you
only,
did it.
the only one that I can remember taking down was Tim. And
But he's
I
a
get
person too.
aggravated with the, and again, I tell him that I like him, I don't like the job he's doing. That's basically, I probably should find a different way to say that.
But this way, you have a passion for the hospital.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not saying you don't.
I've been here since.
I
it
believe
started.
you've got a passion that continues today. I think all that's really being said is let us
Yeah.
help find a different way to channel it.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can't treat
I'll-
people that way.
That's all I'm
I'll try
asking.
to be more
I
tactful.
think that you could bring knowledge to the table that some of us don't have. Clearly, I'm the newbie to the board, as is Miss Catherine. I remember when John came to the Chamber of Commerce and said there was an open seat on this board because there was a resignation. First thing I thought of was, I'm gonna throw my name in the hat. I heard Ross threw his name in the hat. I told John, take my name. He's got the knowledge of the background, the training that is going to be valuable. I was lucky enough that the people wanted me to be a part of this. I think they want all of us here. I just think we need to figure out a way to work better.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. When I read the censure that Scott wrote up, it's really just saying, Gene, do us all a favor, let's act as one.
Yeah, and it was very well worded. I agree with that. And this is what your mom taught you. Well, my mom and dad taught me, and you just gotta be gracious.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I get a little bit more emotional than I should. And I'm getting to the point where eventually I would like to get off, but I keep wanting to see it get better before I jump off.
We've made great gains. There's things that have made great gains.
Yep. I like
You
to
know.
believe at every meeting we make great strides forward and it gets done.
Yeah, today we made some great strides. But I've been saying the same thing all along, but
Gene,
nobody's been hearing it.
Gene, this is about you, but it's not about that.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you do a good job, but we all have faults, and thank God so far haven't had to show mine.
I don't know,
One more thing, Gene, is you say things, I think, that come out, whether they're loving, not loving, whatever the deal is on the table. And if it's not right, you apologize immediately. But all the attaboys can be taken out with one mistake. And so it's like your I'm sorry's aren't believable. But, you know, I've known you long enough to know that you can be a real nice guy too. But when someone sits down and another person walks in and won't even sit next to them, we have failed each other.
Hopefully.
I'm sorry, Ross. I hope I'm not upsetting you or making you mad.
No, this is a good discussion. Thank you.
But I appreciate both of you guys. I appreciate everybody that's here, and I know the reason we're here, but you know, this isn't the playground.
Yeah, we're dealing with serious business and we need to take everything we do very seriously. That's just all there is to it. It's not personal, it's just who we are. But
So
well, Ms. Catherine, what's your vote on this?
I, as written, I would say yes. And I say that by, I think Gene can do it.
I think you can.
You know, I don't want to see anybody else hurt or treated that way, and I know we get frustrated, but I agree to it. I would agree to it for any of us. I mean, but I just ask that you take it to heart too, Gene.
I probably should have read it.
Yeah, probably, because it's too late now. Just kidding.
Just what?
Let me just say that you need a motion and a second if you're going to vote on the resolution.
All right.
Okay, now what does the resolution say? Yeah, you wrote it apparently.
I did write it. Is it not in the board packet?
It
Or was
is.
Yes, it
sent
is.
to you?
It is.
Would you like it read, Gene, or what do you say?
No,
What's the, I guess he's probably asking possibly what's the recourse on the resolution?
yeah, what we're voting for, because like I said, I'm proud of this. Russ, you could have done anything better for me, but I'm so happy. It's a badge of honor. So I guess that's
Does
it.
that mean your behavior in this manner is going to continue if you consider
No,
this a badge of honor?
But what I have done, you know, and I pretty much, I glanced at pretty much and go through what, you know, I got this out of line from there. And, but it's been an effort. It's never been about me. It's always the goal that we've got to make the hospital better. I challenge you to find anything that's different from what I'm talking about. Like slamming your fist on the thing. So I've never done that. But I'm
When I read this, unless I tell me I'm incorrect, Scott, is basically it's just making you aware of what's transpired and just saying, do us all a favor, let's work together as one.
yeah, that's fine.
Am I incorrect on that?
It's an expression by the other members of the board of their displeasure with the past behavior of Director Parks. And a reminder of the type of behavior that is expected for a public official.
Then I will make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Catherine, your vote?
Yes.
Mr. Blythe,
Yes.
Mr. Trilling,
Yes.
Ms. Lee, I'm a yes, Mr. Parks. And what's against you, sir?
No, yes, I'm fine with it. I'm happy with it.
Like I said,
This is so cool. Thank you.
thank you. Looking
Sometimes,
forward to moving in a positive direction.
sometimes it takes someone to bring
There's-
things to your attention,
There's
you
many
know?
times I've needed to be knocked down to realize that I've screwed things up. I will admit.
Now, can I do the same resolution for the way he acted at the last board meeting? That was inexcusable. He was a total idiot,
Gene,
wasn't he?
We just,
Okay, hold on.
no,
You
we
can do
just
that to
had,
me.
we
You
just
saw what
passed a
he-
resolution.
What he did to me last Friday.
We just had a whole discussion for 20 minutes about.
Brought it up on me.
Oh, my God.
Brought it upon me. A surprise. No warning.
We can discuss it. How's that? Openly.
you know what? I would sign one for myself. I mean, it's what we pretty much did when we took an oath of
Okay,
office.
so he got this resolution printed up by saying, I want him to get it. Which was me from hell. I don't want him to get the same thing. I want him to have a badge of honor too. Is there a problem with that from what he did?
That's where we need to take it up.
He was brutal.
To be honest with you, I didn't watch the video. I was too busy sitting here watching it in my mind the entire time it took place.
Okay, so
Let's,
let's do a resolution for him and put him where he belongs.
once again, we can discuss that with Scott and see if that's doable.
Well, we didn't discuss it last board meeting.
Yes.
We just said, let's do it.
No, sir. This went through
We went
a
to
few
board.
different channels before it ever reached this point.
Okay, but anyway,
Yes, sir.
thank you for at least telling me
Yes, sir.
what I'm doing, and this tells me I'm doing a good job, so.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Anyway.
All right, guys. There's anything else to add, team? No? All right. We're adjourned. Stay safe. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Scott.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.